Welcome to one of the most controversial interviews ever recorded. In 1899, during his experiments in Colorado Springs, Nikola Tesla granted a rare interview that was never published until now. Tesla, known for his revolutionary contributions to electricity and wireless technology, also had profound insights about consciousness and what happens after we die. The interviewer, James Barrett, a journalist from the New York Herald, documented Tesla's words but was instructed never to publish them. Barrett wrote in his journal, "Tesla spoke of matters so profound and contrary to the scientific understanding of our time that I fear publishing his thoughts would destroy both our reputations." These papers remained hidden in Barrett's family archives for generations. Today, we explore Tesla's fascinating theories about the soul, consciousness, and the continuity of existence beyond physical death. Tesla believed that consciousness wasn't merely a product of our brains but a fundamental force in the universe, similar to electricity. He saw the human body as a remarkable biological machine that receives and transmits energy from a universal field of consciousness. "The brain does not produce thoughts," Tesla reportedly said. "It receives them from the universal consciousness, much like a radio receives signals. When the body dies, the consciousness continues to exist in this universal field." Was Tesla right, or was he merely speculating beyond his expertise? In this special presentation, we'll explore Tesla's revolutionary ideas about life after death and the nature of consciousness. Ideas that challenge our understanding of reality itself. In our physical world, Tesla's most fundamental understanding came from studying energy. His revolutionary work with electricity stemmed from his deep comprehension that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. "Everything is energy," Tesla explained in Barrett's notes. "When I understood that, I began to see the universe differently. The same principle applies to human consciousness. What we call death is merely a transformation, not an ending." Tesla described the human body as an incredibly sophisticated electrical system, with the brain acting as both transmitter and receiver of energy patterns that exist throughout the universe. According to Tesla, our thoughts, memories, and consciousness exist as energy patterns that cannot be destroyed when our physical bodies cease to function. The physical manifestation, our bodies, may change form, but the energy of consciousness continues. In my experiments with electromagnetic fields, I've observed how energy transforms but never disappears. I believe human consciousness follows the same principle. Tesla spoke of moments during his intense work periods when he felt connected to something beyond himself, what he called touching the source. During these moments, he claimed to receive insights and information that seemed to come from outside his own mind. "I have never been alone in my laboratory," Tesla confided to Barrett. "There exists an invisible presence that guides my thoughts when I am open to receive. I believe this is the same force that receives our consciousness when we transition from physical existence." Interestingly, Tesla believed that what we perceive as genius is simply a person's heightened ability to receive information from this universal consciousness. He suggested that when we die, our consciousness merges more fully with this field, gaining access to a vast repository of knowledge and experience. Tesla's greatest insights came through his understanding of frequency and resonance. He once remarked, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." This principle formed the foundation of his theories about consciousness and life after death. In Barrett's notes, Tesla described consciousness as existing at specific frequencies, much like radio waves. "Each human consciousness has its own unique frequency signature," Tesla explained. "When we die, this frequency doesn't disappear but shifts to a spectrum we can no longer perceive with our physical senses." Tesla believed that our brains are tuned to receive only a narrow band of frequencies during our physical lives, what we might call reality. This limited perception is similar to how a radio can only pick up certain frequencies within the electromagnetic spectrum. "There are countless frequencies beyond what we can perceive," Tesla noted. "Death is simply the shifting of consciousness to these other frequencies. The person hasn't disappeared, they've just tuned to a different channel." This theory led Tesla to speculate about reincarnation. He suggested that consciousness could potentially retune to physical frequencies, manifesting in a new body. He compared this process to how a radio signal can be received by multiple receivers. I have sometimes felt memories that could not possibly be my own, Tesla confided. Experiences from places I've never been, in times before my birth. I believe these are fragments of consciousness from previous existences. Tesla's experiments with wireless electricity were, in part, attempts to detect these consciousness frequencies. He believed that with the right equipment, we could potentially communicate across the frequency divide, allowing communication with those who have passed on. Death is not a wall, but a door, Tesla stated. And like all doors in the universe, it can be opened with the right key, understanding the frequencies of consciousness. One of Tesla's most fascinating theories involved what he called the universal memory, a concept remarkably similar to what some spiritual traditions call the Akashic records. Tesla believed that all thoughts, experiences, and knowledge exist as energy patterns stored within a universal field that surrounds and permeates everything. Nothing is ever truly forgotten, Tesla told Barrett. Every experience, every thought, every emotion creates ripples in the universal energy field. These imprints remain accessible even after physical death. Tesla described moments of accessing this universal memory during his deepest states of concentration. He claimed that many of his inventions came not from logical deduction but from directly accessing this field of knowledge. Sometimes I see my inventions completely assembled in such fine detail that I can even conduct virtual experiments with them in my mind, Tesla explained. These are not creations of my imagination but discoveries from the universal memory. According to Tesla, when we die, our consciousness gains greater access to this universal memory. The limitations imposed by our physical brains are removed, allowing expanded awareness of all that is, was, and could be. What we call heaven may simply be the unrestricted access to the universal memory and the ability to perceive reality beyond our limited physical senses, Tesla suggested. This theory led Tesla to conclude that our individual experiences are never truly lost. Even after death, the energy patterns of our lives continue to exist within this universal field, potentially accessible to others who learn to tune into these frequencies. I sometimes feel the presence of my mother, Tesla admitted, not as a ghost or spirit in the traditional sense, but as accessible memory patterns in the universal field. Her consciousness continues, and sometimes our frequencies align enough that I can sense her wisdom. Tesla believed that what we often call intuition might actually be our limited ability to access this universal memory during physical life, a skill he thought could be developed with practice. While Tesla was primarily known as a scientist and inventor, his personal journals revealed a deep interest in Eastern philosophies, particularly those concerning reincarnation. In his interview with Barrett, Tesla shared his unique scientific perspective on how reincarnation might function as an energy process. The energy pattern that comprises our consciousness does not dissipate at death, Tesla explained. It may, under certain conditions, become associated with a new physical form. This is not mystical but follows the laws of energy conservation and electromagnetic attraction. Tesla theorized that consciousness might be drawn to new physical forms based on resonant frequencies, similar to how certain radio frequencies naturally pair with specific receivers. He suggested that unresolved energetic patterns might create an attraction to physical circumstances where these patterns could find resolution. I believe what Eastern philosophies call karma may be explained as persistent energy patterns seeking equilibrium, Tesla noted. Just as electricity follows the path of least resistance, consciousness may follow energetic pathways toward balance. Tesla described experiencing vivid memories that seemed to come from other times and places. Memories too detailed to be imagination yet impossible to have experienced in his current life. He saw these as potential evidence of consciousness carrying forward through multiple physical existences. The child who shows remarkable aptitude for music or mathematics without training may be accessing knowledge patterns from previous existences, Tesla suggested. Their brains naturally resonate with specific frequency patterns already established in their consciousness. Tesla believed that with the right instruments, we might someday detect and measure these consciousness patterns as they transition between physical states. He even suggested that his research into wireless energy transmission might eventually lead to technologies that could verify these theories. Science will eventually confirm what ancient wisdom has long maintained, that life is a continuous journey of consciousness through multiple physical expressions, Tesla concluded. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of Barrett's interview notes concerns Tesla's attempts to create devices that could communicate with consciousness beyond physical death. Tesla believed that if consciousness existed as energy at specific frequencies, then the right equipment could potentially detect and even communicate with these frequencies. Death does not sever the connection between consciousness and the physical world, Tesla explained. It simply changes the frequency of that connection. With the proper receiver, communication remains possible. During his time in Colorado Springs, Tesla reported strange phenomena that occurred during his high-voltage experiments. He described moments when his equipment seemed to pick up signals that couldn't be explained by conventional science, patterns that appeared almost like language. Sometimes in the electrical discharges, I detected rhythms and patterns that seemed intelligently directed, Tesla confessed. Late at night, when all was quiet, these patterns would become more pronounced, as if something or someone was attempting to communicate. Tesla began designing specialized equipment specifically to enhance these communications. He called these devices ethereal resonators and believed they could amplify the frequencies at which consciousness operated after physical death. The greatest breakthrough would be establishing clear communication between the living and those who have transitioned to other frequency states, Tesla told Barrett. This would revolutionize our understanding of existence itself. Tesla reported limited success with these experiments, describing moments when he received what appeared to be coherent messages, often from individuals he had known who had passed away. Most notably, he claimed to have received detailed technical information from his mother after her death. She knew nothing of electrical engineering during her physical life, Tesla noted. Yet the information that came through contained principles I had not yet discovered but later proved to be accurate. While Tesla never publicly shared these experiments, his notes suggest he believed this communication technology would eventually become his most important contribution to humanity, far more significant than his work with electricity. In the final portion of Barrett's interview notes, Tesla shared his most profound insights about what he called the eternal current, his understanding of the ultimate nature of consciousness and existence. Just as all electrical phenomena are expressions of a single force, all consciousness, whether embodied or disembodied, is part of one continuous field, Tesla explained. We are not separate entities but focal points within this eternal current of awareness. Tesla believed that our sense of being separate individuals was an illusion created by our physical brains. In reality, he suggested, we are all expressions of a unified consciousness temporarily focused through physical form, like how a prism separates white light into individual colors. Death is simply the removal of the prism, Tesla said. The light, our consciousness, returns to its unified state while retaining the unique patterns of its journey through physical existence. This understanding led Tesla to a profound sense of peace about his own mortality. He saw death not as an ending but as a transition to a broader state of awareness, a return to the source from which individual consciousness emerges. I have no fear of death, Tesla told Barrett. I see it as graduation from a limited state to a far more expansive one. The consciousness that has been exploring through this physical form called Nikola Tesla will continue its journey with all the knowledge and experience gained. Tesla's final thoughts in the interview addressed the purpose of physical existence itself. He suggested that consciousness chooses to experience physical reality to grow and evolve in ways that wouldn't be possible in non-physical states. Physical existence provides resistance, challenge, and limitation, all essential for growth, Tesla explained. Just as muscles develop through resistance, consciousness evolves through overcoming the limitations of physical existence. Tesla believed that humanity stands at the threshold of a new understanding, one that bridges the gap between science and spirituality. He predicted that future generations would develop technologies to prove what mystics have claimed for centuries, that consciousness transcends physical death. The day will come when science will understand what ancient wisdom has always known, that life and death are simply different expressions of the same eternal current of consciousness that flows through all things.